I don't know the exact, how it was set up, but this was a separate, and they had a picture of this individual they arrested who was accused of having started the fire there. Why? I don't know.
There was a guy that they arrested that was walking around with a blowtorch.
Yes, maybe that's
He
the
was,
one.
and he said he was using it to light a cigarette.
Okay.
He was mentally deranged, but he was
Yeah.
arrested. He was later released.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was rearrested later, but apparently that's an fire started by people is not unusual,
Yep.
unfortunately.
Yep. That's
And
everywhere.
and the circumstances were such that what might have been a very minor problem became a huge disaster because of the wind, because of the dry, because of a couple of fire trucks that probably would have,
100 is not a couple.
well, 100 over 40,000 acres is not enough to stop every fire the moment it starts.
No, I never said, I would never say that, but it would
Well,
certainly
also,
help.
also depends on how many communities those 100 trucks belong to.
Right.
And but at the same time, it's we can of course have Monday night quarterbacking here and analyze, but that's good. We need to analyze what went wrong.
Yeah, it
But at
seems,
the same
I
time,
agree
it's
with
kind
you.
of
I think it's
hard.
common sense.
It's hard actually to really pinpoint unless you have somebody who has set up all these fires. I would imagine because they are miles and miles apart. All these different communities where fires have started and devastated everybody.
If I can interject, I mean, I sympathize with all of the Californians who are suffering, and there are certainly lots of them. In terms of our very short show, I don't know if there's something else that we would like to broach with regard to what's happening here in America, or what we intend or what we expect would happen. I don't know if there's much more we can say about the California fires that isn't pretty obvious. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of anticipation. There's a lot of expectation on this new administration. I'm curious to find out, I would very much like to find out the feelings of each of us with regard to how much can he accomplish. You've all read about his intents. There has been something there's something in every single newspaper that comes out, and they talk about here's one here, his Greenland comments, Is that real and is that important? I think it really is. Not only Greenland, but he's talking about the Suez Canal, or is he? I wonder if we have a notion as to is it foolish? Is it reasonable? Is it possible? How much power should he have? These are critical issues for the entire nation. I sympathize with California, very much so. I feel bad for those people. However, I'm much more concerned with the future of America, especially at this big turning point. And I'd like to hear from each of us with regard to what we expect from Mr. Trump at this time. Anyone?
Well, one thing I agree with you that we sympathize with California. First off, they need help. Rather than saying we won't help them, they need help no matter who is to blame, because people are suffering, people are hurting, because people are people, they are Americans, they need help. That's one thing. Second thing is, given that I have not had a chat with Mr. Trump, so I don't know what his actual intentions are.
What is written?
But what he has expressed, we got to wait and see how. Because the reason I'm saying is, usually there are postures that the administrators will put out for certain reasons to achieve some of their goals that they have in mind. So we don't know which way the goals are, what is the actual goal, and why is the rhetoric this way? Maybe the goal is something else. We don't know.
Omanon, I
That's what
was
I'm saying.
referring, I'm interested in your expectations. What would you like to see done? How can it be done? Is it possible? That's what I'm aiming at, not what has been said publicly, and they're in the
No,
newspapers and everything. You
No,
know,
that's
what
exactly
do
what
you
I'm.
think can be done?
That's what I'm saying is that the rhetoric that right now what you're reading in the press may be intended for some entirely different goal, which is not visible. That's what I'm because it's a international politics is a very dubious thing, and the way United States has to play its game, maybe the way the chess players are put on the board.
Let me
Maybe
simplify it.
that is what I'm trying to say.
What would you expect? What do you expect of him?
I would expect the Middle East situation to be cleared up.
Okay.
I would expect Ukraine situation to be cleared up. I would expect the North Korean situation to be fixed somehow, and also South Korean situation to be fixed, which is also in a mess. So, and United States has a stake in all these places, no matter how we look at it. So that's what my expectations are.
Okay.
And that's why I'm looking at the rhetoric and the press things, what you pointed out, in that light. I don't know what he's thinking. He must be thinking something to play his game right. That's what I'm expecting.
I think that we have to look at what he's saying for whatever reason he's saying it, and realize that it's not in a vacuum. I was listening to a guy who's probably running for Prime Minister of Canada in the coming election, and he was talking about Trump putting on these major tariffs on everything coming out of Canada, supposedly so it will pay for the government. We won't need income taxes anymore. And the problem with all of that is that now Canada has to be prepared in case, for whatever reason, Trump goes through with what he's saying. So the moment they do that, they now start reducing the ties that they have with the United States, and they start looking for other partners. I can remember, it wasn't too many years ago, when if I wanted to go to Canada, I went through the booth and I showed my driver's license and off I went. And when I left Canada, I did the same thing to the United States. Now I need a passport. One of the
It's been a long time since you've been to Canada if you don't remember having a passport before.
It wasn't all that long ago, what, 5, 6, 7 years ago.
I don't remember.
My wife and I went to Canada last time was probably close to 10 years ago, and we needed a passport then, at least 8 years ago.
Is that right? I did. Oh, well, maybe I also went long time before that then, because I didn't need a passport.
And I know that when I went, and what I'm saying is, when Denmark is told that the United States wants Greenland and they're going to do something about it, and Denmark says no, and Trump keeps talking about it, Denmark now has to look at, okay, if Trump does do something to attack Greenland, whatever he does, Denmark now has to look for people to help protect it, which breaks up a very strong, very effective alliance. And those are just examples.
He's not going to attack Greenland.
He'd be a damn fool to do so. But
he wouldn't. He wouldn't be, and you'd be a damn fool to think that.
Well, maybe a damn fool to say he's going to. The problem is, if I'm in charge, my responsibility is to protect the people of Denmark, including Greenland. I have to now spend time and effort and resources to defend Greenland, Panama.
I totally disagree. I don't believe, I know that both Greenland in particular, Denmark in particular, has always been very friendly with America. It's part of Europe, and I think I don't know the exact history, but I've read that in the past, America has been more than beneficial to the Danish people. I can't see that kind of situation. And I have to wonder if a small country like Denmark owns Greenland. I wonder if they would begin to think of the possibility of selling it, because why do they need it? What does Denmark get out of Greenland? I don't know if there's any production of anything, products that come out of there, mining that's going on. I read a little bit, and from what I read, it's minimal. Do they have the capacity to go into Greenland in a big way, draw out the chemicals and sell them? It's possible, but it's also very difficult, and I'm sure extremely costly.
If that were true, then why would anybody want to buy Greenland?
Because the
why
mineral.
don't they sell it to the Chinese?
No. Because the minerals, or some of the, I don't know what, I wish I was a scientist, but my understanding is that some of the minerals that are available in Greenland, America could very much, we have maintained a base there, but it was mostly a military base.
Yes.
However, I'm sure that there were instances when they either looked to see what was going on or became somehow, the people that, Americans that were there, became aware of what. All that information, is funneled back to the government and Trump in particular. Why all of a sudden he comes into office, you would think that that would be about the last thing in the world that he'd be concerned with. And yet was one of the first things that came up, that he wanted to buy Greenland. And he wants the Suez Canal. That's another whole issue.
Yeah,
but if
one thing I just wanted to
Greenland
interject,
strategically is very important because of its location. Forget about the minerals and whatnot. But there must be something in that. And I would not put it past the leader of Greenland to say, well, maybe we can't, small country, European country, Greenland's off at a distance, quite a distance. Do we really need it for protection? We're part of the European Union. I have to wonder. And as an investment, it's just thrown out there that they're interested in Greenland, but you never know. It could come to pass. And the biggest concern is what the Chinese, what they're doing. I guess what they're doing is investigating further north. They've got a lot of teams out there looking. Yeah. I don't know exactly where they are, what they're doing, but they're encroaching upon America's territory.
I think part of what a long-term goal, and this is semi-hypothetical, is that Trump sees the world as being divided into 2 or 3 separate zones, spheres of influence. And he's afraid that Greenland, if it's not an American thing, someday it'll become Russian or something like that. So he wants to be known as the guy who bought Greenland, the same way as, I can't even remember who the president was who bought Alaska. And I think that is totally wrong. It may come to pass. It may well come to pass. But to encourage it and to go along with it means that he can go after Greenland in the same way as Russia's going after Ukraine. And he can, oddly enough, he doesn't want to annex Mexico. That I don't understand. But that's a topic for a different time.
Mexico may be next.
No, he's talking about everybody but Mexico.
I know, at the moment.
Mexico has the oil. Mexico has the oil, actually.
Right. Well, Greenland has a lot of minerals as well.
They have minerals.
And why is it important today rather than yesterday? Because the ice is melting.
Yeah.
And
but at the same time, couldn't American companies get into Greenland anyway?
Yes,
to
of course.
Dig up and
Of course they can. They probably are.
I
And
mean, we have a base there, so we already have a footprint.
right, we have bases in a lot of places,
Yes.
but Greenland, for the moment at least, is friendly territory. You start talking about annexing it, etc., and maybe they won't be so friendly in the future.
But
And
there
then
is,
what? I mean, it was some casual remark that somebody laughed at, so Trump kept saying it, and suddenly it became a real issue.
my understanding is that the thing that prompted this, and I don't think it's so ridiculous at all, just because it's a little bit off the beaten path, the whole idea, and the fact that Trump, who is known as, he's the strange one for a lot of Americans, especially the Democratic Party. I just don't see that it's that foolish. And I have read that the Soviet Union, Russia and China in particular, I don't know exactly what, but they have formed bases on some land way up north above Greenland, to some extent. I don't know.
Well,
I'm not
Russia
sure.
Well,
a good half
into
of
the
the
Arctic.
Even Russia.
well, I mean, they
they
border the
circle
Arctic.
it. Yeah.
China, I'm
So
sure.
it's not an absurd idea to want to protect your country. As a matter of fact, I almost wonder why no one else brought it up at this point. I never heard Biden talk about it.
I believe Truman talked about it during his time.
Who?
And Truman.
Truman.
And I also know that I recall that Trump talked about it during his first term.
Yes, I know Trump did.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
And
But I think the major reason is strategically, from a defensive position, that we'd be better in control of that type of territory versus letting China or Russia have
Absolutely.
influence over there.
Let
That would be
alone-
the number one.
Let
Whether or
alone
not-
the minerals.
Well, I
Whether or
think
not
we
we
should-
own the country, but we have more territorial rights there to put up more bases, and with the idea that we could work out a deal with exploratory things there and share some of that monies with the people there in Greenland, and probably even Denmark if they're still involved.
That's the approach I was thinking of. Is go in there and we will mine. We'll find, bring whatever minerals are available to the surface, and then share it with Denmark. I don't know if that's a plan that he evidently has something in mind, because this came from nowhere. No one else mentioned it. No one has. I haven't heard it mentioned by any of the past presidents.
He mentioned it when his first term.
Who did? Oh, Trump
did?
did? Yeah.
Trump
I missed
did.
it.
it was supposedly at the time kind of a joke with Denmark, and Denmark didn't take it very kindly. So naturally, since somebody didn't like your joke the first time, you bring it up again, only this time you don't rule out military action.
I think he was just kind of feeling them out initially to just try to get what kind of a reaction it would be.
Well, look at Canada, where he's beginning to talk semi-seriously about making them the 51st state. By the way, it would be a number of states, and I guarantee he wouldn't do that because most of them would be Democratic. So he doesn't want to ever get into that game. But when Canada now has to react to protect themselves against economic warfare, that's what he said. He'd never use military, but he'd use economic warfare. Then the best way to make somebody afraid, I've known Pat for what, 20 years? If I now start punching at him, maybe we can work it out. But in the future, he's going to be worried I'll start punching at him again. So
he's talking about tariffs all throughout the world.
Well, I understand, but you're talking about tariffs where our economies are so intertwined, which, by the way, he, in his first term, negotiated a revised NAFTA treaty which kept things very, very integrated. Now he's suddenly saying, no, we don't want integration. What does he want? What should Canada do? If I were Canada, I'd start looking at minimum, the Commonwealth of Nations.
Let me ask a simple question.
Yeah.
Do you think that in the overall trade agreements that America has made with, you name the country, whatever country you can think of, okay, has America benefited, or have the countries that have been dealt with benefited more? It's a hard question, I know.
As a consumer, the fact that I can get fresh fruit and vegetables in January when it's freezing outside means I'm benefiting. Now, whether the government in their balance sheet benefited or not is a totally different question.
Right.
But because we are a free country where the individual has some say in how they live their lives, then you have to use a wider set of parameters.
Let me rephrase it.
Yeah.
Do you think that Trump is justified when he says we are going to begin to deal with these countries and we are going to charge them? In other words, we're going to benefit from the trade. We have not in the past. When I look around and I see a lot of countries who have shown signs of having benefited from America's dealing with them, I want to think, I don't know, but I think that maybe he has some justification when he says America is going to finally not worry about giving and caring and giving them the benefit of the doubt and helping all of these countries, because I do know that America, especially in terms of trying to build a barrier of these countries against our enemies, that we have gifted them in different ways. Have we benefited more than we have gifted? Is he justified when he says America is going to benefit from all of it?
Let me give you an example, a real life example. In the late 1940s, after the end of World War II.
This is one example.
Russia was moving west. They were taking over countries and bringing them into the Soviet sphere. The United States bought Western Europe by the Marshall Plan. We invested zillions of dollars. It may not seem like a whole bunch today, but back then it was zillions of dollars, and we now have the EU, which is a strong ally, strong supporter, and we're not constantly worried about the Soviet Union or Russia or whoever encroaching and making things difficult. We have strong economic relationships. We get things done cheaply. You can talk about how it's horrible that we have so much trade with China, and China makes so much money off of us. The Chinese companies in large measure, the companies in China in large measure, are Americans. They're investing over there because it's cheaper. And why is that good for America? Because we get things cheaper than we would otherwise. It's not, I sit in my little house with my guns pointed in every direction, and that's the way life's supposed to be. You have a community, and everybody, not everybody, but the vast, vast majority benefit from the community. And that's why you make the investments. And oh, by the way, another factor that we ignore is that American, not necessarily anymore American companies, international companies do the investing. If somebody goes to Greenland to extract minerals, it's not the US Army. It's not the Corps of Engineers. It's some company that is licensed to operate in the EU and sell things to the United States.
Yeah, but those companies belong to some country or
No,
other.
they don't. They don't belong.
They're totally independent.
A perfect example: Royal Dutch Shell was a Netherlands company, the economic face of the Netherlands. The Netherlands Parliament passed some rules having to do with climate and various things that Royal Dutch Shell needed to do.
And
to
Holland did not benefit at all.
And the Royal Dutch Shell moved its headquarters from Holland to England and changed its name to Shell. There's an example.
It would seem to me that they moved because they did not want to pay the Dutch.
Right,
However,
but
when
do
you think that England is going to say, come on over here, you can stay here for free?
It's not a question of free. It was a question.
Taxes,
everybody
or whatever
pays
you want to
taxes.
call it.
And oh, by the way, I don't know this, but I'm reasonably sure that they got a pretty good tax rate for moving.
Oh, yeah, break.
But the point being, they are not loyal to a company, to a country. They're loyal to their stockholders.
Yeah,
that's their job. That is their legal responsibility.
It's the same thing with the banks.
Yes.
Yes, the same thing with the banks. However, when they are, and if it's an American bank or if it was Dutch, whatever it is, the country itself has to stand up and say, look, you're welcome here, but I mean, I can't believe they're saying you can stay here, you can do business here, you can make huge profits here, we won't charge you anything. They've got to pay something.
Oh, that would be a wonderful idea, to pay money on what they make. And we're cutting back on what we're charging these major companies like crazy. In Trump's first term, we dropped the corporate tax rate significantly. We were told, oh, well, that means that the companies will bring all their assets back here. And it didn't happen. And we're going to, in the next few months, be faced with this issue of whether we continue those tax breaks or perhaps, as being proposed, we make them deeper so that they pay even less. And so, but they depend upon the American army to protect them.
They depend on the American.
Yes, but they don't pay.
Okay, just based on that alone, that fact alone, shouldn't America benefit from that in some fashion?
Well, supposedly.
I mean, we went at the end of the war. We went out of our way. The Second World War, we helped, and we took care of Europe completely.
Yes.
Okay.
And Japan. By the way.
I think to a very large extent, it's time for these countries, to include Europe, to begin to think about taking care of America. We are in debt. Are we in debt?
Yes, we are.
How seriously are we in debt?
We're fairly seriously in debt. And you
Right.
know what we've done to protect the country because we're so much in debt? We've cut our income. We went to the people who actually have some money and we said, hey, you're good people. We're not going to charge you nearly as much for all the benefits you get.
I think you're generalizing.
That's called the Trump tax cuts.
Yeah.
And it's being discussed
Well,
to be even more.
Okay, I'll grant you that. Yes, I don't know for sure, but yeah. So now when he says we're gonna, even Europe, he's mentioned Europe, that he was going to, and especially one simple example is the United Nations. Never they paid anything in the United. He finally got to the point. Not finally, he got to the point. He said, every country is going to pay their own fair share, which is small stuff. It's only, but it's the point that they share their part. Have they? Is that part of the reason why America is seriously in debt?
No.
I don't agree.
NATO providing 2%, every country providing 2% of the gross national product towards defense is not why we're in debt. And
I think it helps.
A very, very interesting concept. America is, quote, the greatest country in the world, the strongest country in the world, because in large measure, we can destroy the whole world. By the way, we're not the only country that can destroy the whole world. China can, Russia can,
right.
North Korea can, a whole bunch of countries can do that.
That's an interesting issue too.
Yeah.
North
so now,
Korea.
if you are going to say we're the strongest country and but we don't want to protect, we don't want to be the policeman because that costs money. We, do whatever. Omanon and Chuck, you can have whatever fight you want because we don't want to be involved. That's insane. If you
that is exactly what I mentioned in the beginning, that United States as the greatest country with the greatest army, greatest armed forces, biggest armament available in the world, in the universe, they by right and by divine benediction have the command to make sure there's peace in the world up to a certain degree. That's why United States has to get out there and put their foot
are you
down.
suggesting that's why we have the debt, because we want to lead?
Well, these are two different things. One is, if we really want to stay strong, stay the greatest country in the world, we have to have a few things in place. Of course, national debt is a point well taken, but at the same time, we have to make sure that we as a country are looked up to, so that we have the authority to go in there and get hold of Putin and bring him in and say, you stop this Ukraine business. Get into the Middle East and get hold of all those folks who are creating trouble. Put them somewhere and say, you're not going to fight anymore. And take charge of the North Korean Mr. Ung and do something. But as the greatest country in the world, I think we have not only we have the wherewithal, but we also have a responsibility to do that. But at the same time, I understand that we have to take care of the national debt.
Chuck, what do you
But
think?
One more point I wanted to make, that long time ago, it was the United States that was the manufacturing capital of the world. Everything we were making here. Slowly, what was being made in the Northeast or in Pennsylvania, it slowly went down, went across the borders, and eventually flew out to Asia because of the demand of cheaper labor. And no wonder that's where it is right now. So that's my rant.
So we were beneficial when we probably should not have been quite so beneficial.
That's right. We don't want to go to Walmart and get cheap stuff. We want to go to Macy's and get more expensive stuff that does the same thing, because we want to take care of America. As an individual, all of us individuals, we're looking for good value for our money. And the good value is provided by independent corporations trying to produce what they can at the cheapest price so that they can sell at an inflated price, but still a relatively inexpensive price to us.
Do you think there are more independent companies here in America than there are in China?
Oh, yes, many.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, no, I would think that's beneficial.
There are independent companies in China. My daughter started a running skirt business a number of years ago, and she went to China and found somebody who would make the skirts for her very inexpensively. And she, like everybody else, as it turned out, for a variety of reasons, she decided to bring the manufacturer back home. But her original place, as her responsibility as a business owner, was to find the place where she could get the work she needed done as inexpensively as possible. And
she found that was here at home.
Eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually. There are a variety of reasons why it didn't work out. But for several years, she had the stuff being made in China.
I don't know. It's such a difficult topic. I'm very much in favor of at least listening, watching, hoping maybe that Mr. Trump is able to do some of the things that he has indicated. I don't know if he's personally indicated or if they're reading it from him or what, but
I actually listened to him, so he's personally indicating it in many cases.
yeah. At any rate, I think he deserves. Given the situation here in America and how badly we are in debt, and this is the big thing that always worries me, is the national debt. You know, I don't know how we can continue to carry it. You know, I'm sure that each of you will probably come up with a program with, yeah, we can, you know, with some way of. It just bothers me that we owe that kind of money, and we keep producing money to make the current economy, and we're doing that now here with this economy. We have done it. It's just.
If you insist on taking care of the population, which if you listen to some MAGA Republicans, that's not really necessary. But if you insist on taking care of the population, but you also insist on not
Projecting.
collecting money to help support that. It's like saying, I want the strongest army in the world, but I'm not going to charge the population to pay the soldiers. They have a tendency not to fight.
Right. And that's one of the problems that we currently have as a matter. We're undermanned. My understanding is that they're desperate for it. At any rate, is it because of the nature of the government, the kind of government we have, where a president comes in and he can promise and he will do anything, and to the extent where they will print money at any rate, and they don't care about the national debt. It's just getting enough votes now here. Is that something that should be addressed? I don't know how. By, I don't know, by the American people voting on it. How can it be? You know, when any president is willing to spend huge amounts of money, you know, you don't know if they have it, if it's part of this particular administration, or if they're going to run out of money and they're going to just print more. You know, I'm always amazed at how they manage to get. I get an inkling, just barely an inkling, that this guy is finally saying, we're going to address that. We're going to try to address it. And that's why he's talking about Greenland and
Greenland
a bunch
is
of
likely
other
to
things.
cost us more money.
Well,
than
no,
we're
it's
gonna get out of it.
it's a huge investment. The returns
No, but
from
that is the thing, that when we say we'll go and get Greenland, that means first is you got to invest.
well,
That means
no,
there is-
you have to look. You have to know first, and we can't. What can Greenland return that
Yes.
Denmark has not bothered with? Okay, it has been said that they have the stores of minerals after you get through the ice, and what you can extract from that big country. It's a very big country. Is untold wealth. You know, is that something worthwhile? If this guy's got a dream about doing that, and he is the only one who has spoken about it, okay, and if it's a possibility, then I'm in favor of him doing it.
That's right, because the Danish companies and the English companies and German companies, they have no interest in getting that stuff.
Oh, no, they do.
Okay, then what difference does it make? Because these companies are independent entities.
I'll give you one example. Germany currently, I was just reading about it today. Germany is having serious difficulties.
Yes, they are.
They are having very much. So they're not in the kind of category where they're about to offer whatever it takes to even consider buying, let alone having done it in the past. And if you talk about any of the small countries of Europe, not any one of them, Italy in particular, couldn't come up with $1 toward buying Greenland. America does have the wherewithal.
Where is the wherewithal? How many $1 trillion in debt?
Oh, America.
America.
Oh, yes.
So where are we getting the wherewithal?
Right.
But Germany, which is a lot less debt, they can't afford it.
They
of course.
have never, to my understanding, they have never shown. If it's a way of helping overcome our debt, In other words, it's an investment that I think everyone would agree is bound to pay off, not to mention national defense. And if it's bound to pay off in the future with digging or whatever, controlling whatever minerals they have, if someone has the foresight to see that and say, we're going to invest in that, yeah, it's a debt to begin with, but in the long run, it's going to help us.
Okay, let's try this on for size. We talk about we want to drill more, we want to get more oil. The fact that we have more oil than we need
Here in America.
Yeah. We produce more oil, which we ship out because our refineries, the independent refineries, not American refineries, independent refineries aren't set up to handle the oil that we're producing. So we have to ship it somewhere else and then buy the kind of oil we can work
Well,
with.
then maybe we should establish our own refineries.
Okay, getting to my point, if the government starts to build its own refineries so that we get the economic benefit of that, that's socialism. There's no way that we can get.
Oh, no, yeah, but
That's what socialism is.
I know it is socialism.
Okay.
When it's extended to the entire economy, this is not. You're talking about one product.
Well,
One
right.
product.
That is socialism.
I'll try another product. Here's another example. The unbelievable amounts of money America spends on education. If we got rid of all that stuff, then we wouldn't be spending all that money on education. Isn't that wonderful? The fact that there wouldn't be anybody to make change for us when we go to the grocery store is a different problem entirely.
Your comparisons are not,
I'm
you're talking about American people, American children. You have to invest in them.
Okay.
You have to try. You have a choice with regard to the products that we're looking at.
Well, let's go back to Greenland for a moment. American companies. Somebody says, okay, I'm going to go to Greenland and I'm going to...
What do you mean somebody? Who is somebody?
Pick a company.
An outside, an American company?
Let's call American Motors, which in large measure is making more money in China than they are in the United States. But that's neither here nor there. They go to Greenland and they extract all these minerals and they sell them to the various people who benefit.
See,
and the only thing the American government gets out of it
it's not my dream.
is about 15% corporate income tax.
It's not my.
That's it. So
it's not my proposal. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about giving it. I'm talking about the American government going in there and drilling and selling directly or using directly what they produce and what they can manufacture from it.
That's as Omanon agreed. That's socialism. American
That is
government
socialism.
doesn't do that.
Well-
American companies, we allow American companies to do that, and we don't charge them very much for it.
So the American government has no right whatsoever. I mean, they control so much and they do so much here in America. They do not have the right to go and invest for the benefit of America. They do not have the right to invest in Greenland for the right or for the benefit of America. And I'm assuming that it's going to be, correctly done and that the government, the people, I don't know, God forbid they take that money and lower the national debt with it. I don't know. Whatever they do with it, the government is going to go and dig and benefit and bring it back.
Bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Where
In
does it become
2001
strict socialism?
Was the last year the American economy, the American government had a surplus. Was taking in more money than they were paying out, 2001. Right. And what happened in 2001 was George W. Bush proposed huge tax cuts, benefiting primarily the wealthy, because he said, give the money back to the people who paid it. They didn't reduce the national debt. They didn't do anything. They increased it in that first 4 years.
I think what you're saying is that he should have. He should have considered reducing, and I absolutely agree.
Fine. So in 2016, when the economy was going great guns, and what did the Trump and the Republican Party propose? Hey, let's cut taxes.
Well,
let's
you
cut
know,
income so we'll go in more
yeah.
debt.
I think that if we look back over past presidents and
Yeah.
their what they have done, I'm sure that we could come up with a lot of examples where they should have, and it should have benefited the people. However, they have the responsibility of making a decision at some point, and the American people, I think, would accept it. We are in debt as a country.
Yes.
So we're going to take half of that surplus, or maybe a third of it, or whatever, to pay down the debt. Maybe we'll give some back to people, but we're going to pay some of it or most of it to pay down the debt, because that maybe what they have to do is make America realize how much we are in, and I personally am concerned about it. We are seriously in debt in
Yes,
so
we
many
are.
different ways.
And I agree we need to do something about it. But the only solution that the Republican Party and Donald Trump, because remember, we have past history with
Not
him,
the Democrats.
not the Democrats, have come up with is let's reduce spending. And we can't reduce defense, and we can't reduce income to the agricultural industry, blah, 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 blah. Let's get rid of all this money we're wasting in terms of welfare.
So when
All the poor people, they'll go find a job doing something. God knows what.
No,
But they'll go find a job doing something because this or the food pantry in Burlington will feed them.
Yeah, no, you're too cut and dry. I'm sure. I don't think that. I would hope that that's not the kind of scenario that at least I picture. I would think that with whatever monies do come in, taxes and whatnot, and now at this point it's extremely difficult because the people have been. I mean, there are we just owe so much money.
We owe it. Yes,
so
we do.
whatever is coming in has to be, and this is part and parcel of what the president should be important about. This is what he should be. This is the kind of character he should be. He should be the one to get right out there and say, this is what we have for money, this is what we're going to do with it, and this is how we're going to spend. We're going to help you to this extent. We can only do so much this term, and then we're going to pay down some of the debt. And I think the American
by the
people
way,
would buy it.
Trump has said, and his supporters have said, that we have to reduce spending. Okay, fine. But when they point at what the spending will be, they want to get rid of Social Security. I'm 80 years old.
Well, you know,
I'd rather we don't get rid of Social Security.
no.
By the way, you're shaking your head. The Congress has said that.
Yeah,
They want to do something. They want to privatize Social Security, so it's not a government issue. They want to privatize Medicare. Again, I'm 80 years old. I'm healthy now, but who knows? Because it will cost the country, the government less money.
I'm 88. I can tell
Yeah.
you.
Okay. All right. I'm making the point that it's.
No, I think that this new administration should be at least given a chance, and I totally agree. If they do not make an effort to somehow try to keep, and what he's doing so far, what he has said is that, and this is the reason for, we're going to tax Canadian goods and we're going to tax everything. Okay, I think the intent.
Everybody but General Motors and Exxon Oil. We're not going to tax them.
No, you're being picayune.
But no, that's where the money is.
I know it is, and he hasn't said that he's not going to tax.
Yes,
them.
he has.
Yeah.
He wants to. He has said very specifically.
If it's an American company, you were complaining a few minutes ago about them moving the companies out of America. Now here's an American company. Okay, he's giving them the benefit. I think he's giving them the benefit of that. Give him a chance. Maybe he will. If he doesn't, at the midterm or somewhere, then I think it would be justified complaining. But the guy hasn't even been in office. He has only proposed something. Go ahead.
All right,
Well, you have to give them a chance. When they come into the office, they will look at the whole budget scenario. There are not many slots where they can cut, other than the fixed income folks.
Yeah,
And that's the trouble.
I didn't get that.
the fixed income,
Fixed
Social
income,
Security,
okay.
Medicare.
Yep.
I mean, that's
Medicaid
the
is
problem.
gone.
Where else?
God
You're not
forbid
go-
people
You're
who
not
are
going
poor.
to cut the defense.
Huh?
You're not going to cut the defense. And you
And
can't.
they-
You shouldn't.
Right, they shouldn't cut the defense. But if you look at what we spend our money on, most of it, not all, when you're talking about trillions of dollars, there's guaranteed to be some issues that can be dealt with. But most of it has been looked at and picked over. What you need to do after a while is you need to bring in more money.
Yes.
And
That's
if
it.
you
That's
bring
it.
if your proposal, your primary proposal having to do with the economy is cut taxes, you're cutting the amount of money. When you go to, say, tariffs, I'm going to charge Canadian whatever, not Coors beer. What's a Canadian beer? Off the top of my
Canadian beer. Oh. Anyway, whatever
What,
it is.
if you're going to charge them 10% to come into the country, oddly enough, they're going to say they're going to charge that to the distributor in the United States
Yes.
to cover the cost, because they're not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts, nor should they be, if we believe in capitalism. So therefore, they're raising the cost to me. And then they're going to claim, oh, it's you're getting it back because we're cutting your taxes.
Who are you talking about? They? Are you saying the government?
The government or
Yeah.
the
I think it is absolutely necessary that we at least give him a chance to see where and how. You know, I mean, our commentary here. You know, we're restricted in what we can know. There's a lot that we can know. We can't do anything about it. We can certainly. We have only the vote. Is all we have, and hope. And hope that, and I can't think of a good reason why I would think that someone like this president, this incoming president, would want to hurt America in any way whatsoever. Maybe their choices are not quite because it's so complicated. Maybe their choices maybe are not. But I think that I would hope that we would at least give them a chance to see
all right.
if
Try this. We have a few more minutes left. Trump campaigned and received a lot of support with the idea to get rid of all the undocumented people in the United States,
right.
preferably those with Latino names. And I was just reading an article just before I came down here, and they were talking about the fact that in California now, in Florida and North Carolina earlier this year, the people who were cleaning things up, who were going in and picking up the branches and cutting the trees that were falling across the highways, are undocumented people.
You know what, Bob? If it became, I think, okay, I have that much faith in Americans.
Yeah.
And if it became, we've been fooled, we've been nurtured, we've been foolishly taken care of in so many different ways. And I think that if it became necessary, I think the American people would go down and would put on like they do in Spain, they put on and in China, I've seen it personally, they put on a workman and they're out on the highway picking up papers and whatnot. I think Americans would do that if they had to, and if they knew they were making at least a reasonable income.
Key thing.
That's the catch. That's the catch.
Yes. An example of this about 8 years ago, I think it was, in Alabama, there was a county that got serious about undocumented people, and all the undocumented people either were thrown out or left on their own, and the farmers were trying to find people to help them harvest their crops.
I know.
They didn't get one applicant. Not one.
Yeah.
Nobody was willing to do that kind of work at the prices that we...
You leave those people alone and let them go without food, and let them go without gasoline, and let them go without electricity. After a while, I think that you would see, okay, I will take that kind of job, at least to get above the level of expenses that I need. I think they would, and I think Americans would do that
And you think the country would be better off? Certainly not in the
Yes,
short term.
yes, I
but
do, if
maybe
Americans-
6 months or a year out.
All Americans work.
Oh,
All Americans
okay.
work.
You and I are not working. Well, I'm working.
We'd
in a
get
sense.
part-time jobs.
Doing
I'll find
what?
you a job.
Doing what?
I don't know. I'll find cleaning the streets.
Okay, actually,
I will join you. 2 brooms and 2 shovels.
and where are we going to put all this?
And I'm
the
older
trash?
than you, and I
Yes.
still will do my share.
Okay, good. Actually, I want to see you doing it, and I'll take pictures. That'll be
No,
my job.
no,
I'll
no,
document it.
no. Everyone must contribute. At least it's at least a thought of how. I mean, we can up and down, back and forth.
Chuck is
America
gone.
spends money. They don't. We're in debt. We're in serious debt right now. This guy is coming into office. At least he's got. It seems like he's got a dream about what he wants to do, and we'll know shortly whether he's honorable and he's going to do it, or if he's not just like the rest of them.
And 4 years ago, or 8 years ago, when he was coming in and we didn't know anything about him.
He's a changed person.
Oh,
I
he
think.
is a changed person?
I think so.
Interestingly enough, his changes have been more along the line of it's my way or the highway. I was just reading an article. There's
Isn't
a
that what
guy,
a president does?
the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Republican, was just replaced.
Yeah,
He was a very strong Trump supporter,
right.
very strong Trump supporter,
There was
but he
something-
didn't agree on Ukraine. So
So
Johnson,
what? I mean, what does that
they
mean?
replaced him with somebody who would go along with what Trump wanted.
Well,
So if this is the kind of guy that you think is going to change and become more,
no. I mean, why did you, whoever you voted for, why would you vote for him? Because you believe that he's going to take charge and he's going to.
right.
Okay. Now, if he has to tell this person, get lost, or this person, you've got to change. It seems to me that he is doing it. Now, whether he is honorable and they produce when all of this is set up is the question. But if you don't give him a chance to set up the way he wants,
okay, one of the strongest arguments that he had for voters was the economy. The price of eggs is too damn high. It's gone up like
It
crazy.
is. It
I
really
will
is.
fix it. A week after the election, he's doing a interview, and he says, "You know what? Food, when prices go up, they tend to stay up. It's really, really hard." So he lied like crazy.
when was this? Last week?
No, it was a week after the election.
No,
A week after the
just
election?
after the election.
Yeah. So
He lied.
Yeah.
Well,
As a
that's-
matter of
that's
fact,
what-
I would say
no.
that he should be thrown out. He
No,
lied
because
about the
that's-
goddamn eggs.
No, that's what politicians do. And
I know that.
You were right.
And is
You
he
ha-
a
you ha- no, you-
politician?
you ha-
Yes,
Yeah.
he is. Does
Yes,
he
that's
have
it.
the best for America
has-
in mind?
he-
I want to believe, and I
he-
certainly hope, and I'm willing to give him a chance.
Yeah, it's not whether you are willing. He has won the election. He is the would-be president. Let him come in. Let him do his job. Whether we are willing to give him a
And
chance or
you know
not,
the other
that doesn't mean anything.
Right. You know the other
Because
thing, Chuck,
he's going to
that
be the president.
almost America is such. This is the independence of America. No matter what he does, there are going to be those who are opposed to it.
Yes,
You have
of course.
you have to look carefully at what is done and is it for the benefit of the country generally. He cannot do something that is going to benefit every single American.
I agree.
In every way.
That's a given.
In every
That's
time.
a given in democracy.
Right.
That's
You have to
And
work your way
not only
out of the forest.
Not only democracy, it's a given in any government, whether it's a king or whether it's democracy. Democracy worse because it is actually the majority, and majority is in. Let them do their
Give
job.
him a chance.
Right.
We will know.
Give him a,
By the way,
and you know what?
I ask you a question, and I agree in general with what you said. But if what the guy says is, "I'm going to improve the country by burning down Obanon's house," and he burns down the house, and the country didn't improve. Meanwhile, you're out a house.
Now that is why we are a country of rule of law.
Well, the law
That's-
obviously changes over time.
Well, that's a different issue.
We have just been told we're off. And
Okay, good.
I need
We're
to call.
off.
Alright.
That's a very,
need to call Chuck
very,
and
very well
apologize.
chosen.
Thank
We
you.
are
I don't know.
off.
Chuck left.
Yeah, and I kind of understand why. Like I said, I'm going to call and apologize to him.
Yeah, I think he got disgusted because of the.
I dare you.
Because he did
I
not.
dare you. I
did not-
dare you. Call the
He
White
did not-
House. I dare you. See if what's her name answers.
I'm calling Chuck.
Oh, I thought you were calling the White
No,
House. Oh, I thought you were going to apologize to the president. I'm sorry. Oh, you're
Bye.
going to apologize to Chuck? Why?
Because we got carried away.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
guys-
Yes, please do that. Go ahead. You're right.
Bye-bye.
This was fun. I don't know if we
Yes.
accomplished anything, but it was fun.
No, we never accomplish anything. We just, what we do is generate ideas and hope that they take. We don't accomplish